and welcome back to the Spots of Wisdom podcast. I am Shannon. I run Spot That Dog.
I'm Jade and I run that dog based in North Wales.
And we have
I'm
a special
Sarah, and
guest.
I have.
Go on.
I'm Sarah, and I've got Hafwenna Dalmatians.
So, if you've all watched us
A lot
before, Sarah was here a few weeks ago, talking about some breed history and specifics for Dalmatians. And today we are going to talk about Crufts. So, Sarah, talk to me about Crufts like I have no clue what I'm on about because I don't have a clue what I'm on about.
It's the biggest dog show in the world, and the first year I went, I just kind of walked around with my mouth open because, like, the NEC is massive,
Yeah.
and there's just halls full of. There's like rings and shops in each hall, so you end up like you can spend a whole day wandering around and just being gobsmacked at the amount of things there are for dogs. And I consider myself, especially now, like I know a lot of like the products and a lot of the technologies and new things out. But every year you'll see something new, something different, something you never heard of before at Crufts.
So,
And the sheer amount of dogs is crazy.
how does it compare then? Because obviously, have you ever been to Hoy's?
Yeah.
Because that's that. How does it compare in to regard? So those who don't know, Hoy's is Horse of the Year show, which is also held at the NEC. How does it compare to that?
I think it's a very similar atmosphere. Like, Crufts is the elite, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
one that, like, loads of foreign people will come over with their dogs to compete. Loads of foreign people will come over to watch. Like, there was quite a big breeder from America came over to watch from last year. Another big one from Australia came over to watch. So you get to speak to a lot of like international people that are into dogs as well. And yeah, you are competing for the biggest show in the world, and it's the biggest entry in the UK of dogs as well. So, like, we're doubling our average numbers and extra.
Yeah.
So yeah, similar, very very similar atmosphere.
Yeah. And
But the
what
shop is.
kind of? I that's the best part. The shop is always the best part. So, what
Yeah.
kind of thing do you expect to see there? Like, well, I obviously only really know about the agility and the showing. So, what other things are people likely to see?
So there's demonstrations in various rings. So there'll be demonstrations in the main ring. Then there's like a YKC ring, which is by Discover Dogs. So they run all sorts of demonstrations in there. Then there's like a couple of smaller pocket rings dotted around the place as well, where you'll see demonstrations. There might be demonstrations on certain stands as well. There'll be all sorts like gun dogs, hoopers, scent work, police work, agility. There's the golden retriever obedience team. There's like 20 of them doing obedience. I'm not going to lie, it's quite boring because they're walking around. But equally, like the amount of dogs and how well behaved they are, like especially you guys as trainers know what's gone into them. It's just a little bit slow. But yeah, there's all sorts like dancing dogs, like the heel whip music. Yeah. There's rally there. There's obedience, actual rally competition, actual obedience competition, demonstrations of them all. There's also like Discovered Dogs, where each breed club has their own stand with a little pen in there, and they all arrange for dogs to be on the stand at all times. So each dog will have like a little time slot, usually with another. So anybody who's interested in the breed can go meet them, get their hands on them, talk to breeders, people who are really into the breed. So that's quite interesting. Like, you can spend a while at Discover Dogs, just nosing at different breeds and talking to people. And yeah, it's the only event of its kind in the UK.
Yeah.
And you kind of wish more of it, because I really enjoy Crufts.
How long have you been showing yours?
2019 was my first year.
Okay.
and I qualified 2 dogs. I qualified Nala and then Hector, who's actually Phoebe's dad.
Yeah.
So they're on separate days. And I just went with like just no expectation, just cool to get there, have a nice day with my dog, and get some nice pictures. That was my only expectations of the day. And Nala just outdid it all and came second in her class.
Oh, wow.
It's like I was nearly in tears in the ring because like I just didn't expect it. And they did what we call shortlisting, which the judge tends to pick their favorite 7 or 8 dogs from the class. So when we made the shortlist, I was like, right, cool, day made, beyond what I was expecting. And then she had the final 3 of what she liked. She had us move again separately. And we were one of the 3. I was like, oh my God, like what's going on? What's happening? Yeah, and she got second, and the judge was, one of the comments in the write-up was like, could have easily swapped places with first. So I was like, cool, I'll take that. That was mad. And then the next day was Gun Dog Day, and then Hector got a 5th, which, like, yeah, it was good, and he beat other dogs, but with GSPs is quite different because the numbers are a lot smaller anyway. And it was dogs. There's always fewer dogs than there are bitches. Plus, with the GSPs, if they're docked, they're not allowed at Crufts.
Okay.
So you're not against the same entries as you would be at like a normal champ show. But yeah, Nala was just out of this world. There's actually the video on my YouTube channel. I'll have to send it to you. But yeah, so he's in 19. I've been showing. So yeah, Nala's cool.
Is she was one of your first ones that you started doing things with?
Yeah, well, she is the first one I started doing things with because Dudley is in Casey registered.
Yeah.
I did everything I shouldn't do when I bought Dudley.
Yeah.
And then Nala came along like 10 months later. And then I did things far more along the right lines. And I didn't really plan to get into showing because I didn't like horse showing because it was so fixed. I like dressage. So like the nearest sort of comparison in dogs would be either the heel work to music or like obedience would be the equivalent to dressage. So then I got into showing and never looked back. I guess a bit obsessive sometimes, which is quite bad.
So in general then, if we're talking Crufts level, what do the judges tend to look for in a Dalmatian?
So Crufts level, if you're thinking of like which is gonna get the best breed, like the judges should be judging to the breed standard. So if you read the breed standard, it would say things like their temperament, the dog should be happy and outgoing, temperament. So even at Crufts, which is the busiest show for people for dogs, the noisiest show for people for dogs you'll ever be at, they should still be happy and outgoing. They should still be able to display correct breed temperament. And if they don't, like, we can understand why, but equally, there'll be dogs that still display the correct temperament.
Yeah.
So there should always be that difference. So for example, like their head, what they don't want is like a lot of like loose skin around here and making them look droopy. They should be nice and neat, like Lanny is, even though he's got a bit of skin under his collar. Like that doesn't count. Their markings, like their ears, should be well broken up. So, sorry if I disturbed you, Jess. They shouldn't be a solid colour. They should have white on them. Ideally, they've got spots on them, but they should at least have white on them. Their eyes should be fully marked. They got like eyeliner, as I call it. So there shouldn't be any sort of gap in their eyeliner. Their noses should be full of pigment. There shouldn't be pink on them. If they got spots on their face or they haven't, not a big deal.
Lovely, just brushing my
You
face.
want an even covering spots. So you don't want like a big sort of gap with like no spots if they're really spotty everywhere else.
Yeah.
So Lanny's like really lightly spotted, but he's evenly lightly spotted.
Yeah.
And then you got like Pumpkin, for example, who is quite heavily spotted. She's like the heaviest spotted of my show dogs, but she's evenly heavily spotted. And then like Nala, for example, she's got what we call a window, which is like that big gap with no spots, and that's on her left side, which is actually a show side. So when I stack her the other way around. So we're showing off her best spot side.
Yeah.
So it's like little tricks like that you can learn as you're going along. But yeah, you want good cat feet, which is like really tight feet. They want to be straight feet. So you get like some dogs that turn their feet in or turn their feet out. That's incorrect. Because if you think of the Dalmatian as a carriage dog, they should be able to still be a carriage dog. So if their feet are like that or like that, that's going to put additional strain on them when they're doing their work, which would make them go lame.
Yeah.
Or it could affect strides, which then they can't keep up with the horse. And obviously if they go lame, they ain't good carriage dogs because they can't do it.
Yeah.
Level top line to a level tail set with a slight upward curve. So you've probably seen a Dalmatian with like a curly tail that curls and points towards its head. That's totally wrong, because doing their carriage work, they sometimes need to go underneath the carriage. So if they've got an upright tail, that's going to get damaged on the carriage. So that's the reason behind the tail being good. But generally you want like loads of heart room and lung room. Where their elbows are on their front legs should be where the chest plate is level with. So it's again given lots of heart and lung room. You want a dog with enough bone and substance to be a guard dog, because they have to guard the carriage, but also light enough and fine enough to be able to cope with running for a long distance behind a horse. So it's like that very fine line between, if they're too fine, yeah, they might find the endurance work a little bit easier, but if they got enough bone to stay sound off on different surfaces. But if they're too heavy of bone, that's going to be additional strain on the whole dog, and they may be less inclined to keep up with a horse over a long distance. A well-muscled dog, that's quite an easy one. Not too fat, not too thin. That's quite a hard balance to find, I personally find.
Either
You
way
guys
too
know
fat
Dalmatians
or,
love their food. Well,
I
and they
have
love
seen a
their
few
food.
chunkers.
So like, and they're not afraid to be thieves, are they?
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
like I got the odd one, they'll jump a baby gate to get in the kitchen and help themselves to whatever, like you the other week having a kilogram of raw. Some of the plastic and all, because it was in the sink defrosting, like it has done his whole life. And he realised that he could reach it.
Yeah.
But again, being Lannister, he didn't realise or think that about grabbing it from the sink and pulling it out of the sink onto the floor. He ate it from the sink.
Oh.
So, you know, he's not the brains of Britain, is Lanny?
Because he's so much of Bucky,
yeah,
and like Lanny and Bucky, it's hilarious.
Oh, it is. Like, I love that as well. You know, like as a breed, when you see like their characters, their parents' characters coming out in like so many of the Lanny Raven litter, they're like kangaroo. Raven's like Skippy. She just bounces. I mean, you saw her at the beach, yeah. She just bounced at my back for the first 20 minutes of the walk. Excited. So yeah, again, like then you look at their movements, they got to be able to move well, with good reach and drive. So reach is like their front legs, how much they extend it, and drive is the drive from behind. Yeah, basically, if you just put it down to like the most basic terms, can this dog run behind a horse for 20 miles a day and stay sound doing it? And be capable of doing it within their own fitness and stuff. And then does it look like a Dalmatian?
And the judges
So like
that
that's the most
are,
basic.
yeah, the judges that judge them, are they like specialized within the breed, or is it just random judges per
Yeah,
breed?
they are specialized, and like as a judge, it's considered a very high honor to judge your breed at Crufts.
Yeah,
Because like no matter who you are or who you speak to, people in the general public who don't even own a dog have heard of Crufts.
yeah.
It's the only dog show like that. Internationally, people know about it. Like if I asked you to name another big dog show in another country, could you?
No.
So, but they all know about Crufts. Like Westminster Kennel Club, for example, is the big one in America. But yeah, so it's a big honor for a judge, and all judges have to go through like certain exams. They have to complete a certain number of hours of stewarding. They have to have judged a certain number of the dogs before they can move up. They've also got to have achieved 3 stud book numbers for that. I think it's for that breed, but it might be in general. So ironically, I've got enough stud book numbers that I could work my way up to eventually give out CCs, which is the level they got to be to judge at Crufts. But I haven't done anything towards judging because I don't want to.
You don't want to. Does it not interest you, or is it just not something that you're doing? Or
If I could just go straight in and judge CCs now, yeah, I'd do it.
Okay.
But the hours of stewarding that you've got to complete, the number of appointments you need to do to get your numbers to then do the next sort of stage in the next exam. To be honest, I haven't really got the time or the capabilities of doing it because I've got so many dogs at home. Like I could get an appointment up in Scotland. Well, I ain't doing that in a day. So that's money to travel there, money to stay in a hotel, then judge, then come home. But while all the dogs are at home, pay somebody to look after them.
Yeah, look after them. Yeah.
It's just complicated to get it all done, and plus I like showing myself. So yeah, it's expensive and time consuming to be a judge, and fair play to anybody who does it because it is a lot more work than I think I realized when I first started showing, like the different exams they have to do, and yeah, all the numbers of dogs. I think it's like over 100 dogs, Dalmatians, they need to get their hands on, plus the stud book numbers to like move up to give out CCs. So it's a big, undertaking.
It is, especially on social media and stuff, that there's always somebody kicking off at a judge somewhere. And like you said, it's a lot of work, isn't it? For then just
It is. I mean, there's definitely different standards of judges. I think every show person has got a list on their phone or in their notebook of judges they won't enter under again. And it could just be that judge just doesn't like your type of dog. But you also get what we call facey judges who, give their friends a favour because they can have a favour in return. Like that definitely exists, and it exists all around the world. It's just a fact of showing really that it'll happen. And like you'll get other times where, like, say somebody's used a judge's stud dog and then they enter that offspring under that judge. Nala, you never bark. Sorry. The dog that never barks, she sat in front of the fire barking. Weirdo. Like you would have thought that they like that dog.
Yeah.
Because it's by their dog. Like if it produces something similar to their stud dog, there's a good chance they're gonna like it because it's that type. Or you'll get like two people, like one's a judge, one's a competitor, bought from the same breeder. Well, they obviously like the dog because they bought it. They bought
Yeah.
his sister, his brother. So, like, you can always say that's facey, but equally you can say, well, it kind of makes sense too.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
thing is, with all types of showing, it is like, although they've got a standard they have to go off of, it is personal preference, isn't it? It's opinion on what they
Yeah,
prefer the look of. Like, there's
yeah,
no,
you're
yeah,
paying for somebody's.
it's the same as horse showing, as well as me.
Yeah,
And like, yeah, all right, they've got to have a certain confirmation, they've got to look a certain way, but at the end of the day, it's down to an opinion. It's not, there's no
and
strict,
if
there is strict, but there's not, if that makes sense.
the dog perform on the day,
Yeah.
like I could
Yeah.
enter a judge who I think I've got a real good chance of doing well under this judge, and I could be really looking forward to it. But then my dog on that day could go, not really into it today.
Well,
They
he
could
told
pick,
us this weekend. Bucky on his first show obviously
yeah,
got third place, and then this weekend, okay, there was only 5 in the class, but because he just wasn't having it, we technically came, well, we did come last. So it just depends on the day and the dog and the scenario and
yeah.
what
I mean,
happens.
the younger the dog is, the more likely the judge would be to say be forgiving on that dog, as long as it's done enough to show them something that they like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if Jazz, for example, kangarooed around the ring, but she trotted for 5 paces, and those 5 paces were really nice 5 strides, and the judge saw those 5 strides and goes, yeah, that dog's got a lot of potential, but she's 8 months old. I know she's older than that now, but they can be forgiving if they like the dog
Yeah.
enough. It is a lot of personal opinion, judges' discretion. Like judges can also withhold places.
Yeah.
So they can say, like, you're not worthy. Say in a champ show where the top 3 qualify Crufts, they could go, that dog is not worthy to qualify Crufts. So I'm going to put it fourth. I believe they've got to fill in paperwork, or they've got to do something to like justify why they've done that. Because it's not like common practice that they do that. But equally, like some people get a lucky qualification to Crufts because there's only 2 in the class. So there's a bit of a cheap qualification when, like, for example, Raven, when she got her stud book number, which qualifies her for Crufts for life, like they were always double figures of entries in that class. It could be anything up to 20 bitches in that class. So, like, that's not a cheap win. And she actually ended up winning a class. She nearly got her stud book number like 3 or 4 times, like missing out by 1 or 2 places, which was like still good in a big class, but it's like so annoying as well. She nearly
just missed out by like a little bit. Yeah.
And then she won a class, and she was like on fire that day. She was really hard work. She was just full on. Like Raven's generally one of those dogs that's like all or nothing, like full on, or like full on, but in the wrong way. Like she's in 110%.
Do you have any that kind of they know the difference between like the levels of shows? Like if you take them to Crufts, do they just know? They're like, this is
Nala for certain rises to an occasion. Like even say, so like a normal show, for example, hey Becky,
Sniffing for
you'll
food.
do your breed class, and if you win that, then you go in the challenge against the other breed class winners for best of breed. So Nala will even rise a little bit from a normal class to the best of breed challenge. And then you go in, if you get best of breed, then you go in the group ring, where you're against all the other best of breed winners within that group. And she'll go up another gear. And she just loves showing. Like anybody who sees Nala showing, she just makes you smile because she's so happy and she's almost giddy to show because she's like, I'm showing.
Like,
One-on-one time with me, sweets, lots of
yeah,
treats. She's happy girl.
Sherlock does it to a degree. When we're at a training class and he's demonstrating, he'll do it. And he's like, yeah, this is fun. But you take him to a show where there's a big crowd, and like
Yeah,
you said, he just goes, oh, right, this is different. And he really like comes out of his shell
yeah.
a little bit. And it's, yeah,
Finnick's another one.
got a job to do. Who was that? Sorry, go on.
Finnick is another one who does that. Like, but he's a natural show off anyway. He loves showing anyway. And then the more people there are, the more people there are to show off to. And he's like, oh, bring it on. And he's just, well, yeah, he's the happiest dog on the planet. Like every day is his best day. And going to a big show with lots of people to give him a fuss, lots of people to watch him speak. Oh no, he's not coming. He's just got up and gone by the fire. He's just like walking behind the cameras, like I'll speak of the devil. Here he comes. But then you will also get dogs that do the opposite. They see all like the people and all the how busy like Crufts is, and they go, ooh, you don't like this. And you will see that as well. But it's dog on the day as well, isn't it?
What mood they wake up on, and yeah, it could be anything.
You know, like it's their owners may be different at Crufts as well. The owners may go, oh my God, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
I'm quite lucky that I don't get nervous. So
Do you not? Do you just take it all in your stride?
yeah,
Yeah.
and really cool. The last time I got nervous was Dalmatian of the Year final with Finnick.
Yeah.
He qualified in the puppy section. It was the first dog I'd ever had that qualified for that. Like that's the hardest thing to qualify for.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest occasion, and you're against like all the top people in Dalmatians, and there's all the even more top people watching, and it's just full of like elite people watching. All the top level judges are watching, and yeah, it was the only place I felt a little bit like a fish out of water. Like I was looking around and going, what the hell am I doing here?
I think I feel like
Finnick did well.
I'll semi be that way towards Crufts, but equally like you said, you go not expecting anything, don't you? Like I'm not expecting Bucky to win Crufts. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. But actually, you never know. Like again, it's not going to. But
with like the best attitude of, I want him to do well in his performance.
Yeah.
And I want a nice, pretty picture on the famous green carpet. Because like all the Crufts is carpeted. It's all green carpet. Like they must have a massive warehouse where they store this green carpet year to year. No, it's all right actually. But yeah, you just go for a picture, and then they'll always in one of the halls have like a massive like Crufts like sign that's big enough that the dogs can like jump up on it and go and have a picture there. There's a queue for people wanting a picture with their dogs on that famous Crufts like logo. But yeah, treat it as an experience.
Yeah, and that's all I've told myself is
take,
I've managed to make it to Crufts. I didn't even think that was ever gonna. It wasn't even on my plan for life, and
like that was a massive like throw you in at the deep end kind of thing.
I
like,
mean, we've gone from one show and straight into qualify for Crufts.
Yeah. Because I messaged you, didn't I? I was like, right, this is your last chance for this year's Crufts to qualify. Like, enter and give it a go. And in all fairness, you did. And in all fairness, you did the work ahead of that. But also, like, people know that that's the last show to qualify at. So it's normally got quite a good entry.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you'll see some summer shows, like, depending on the judge, there could be fewer entries because like people think, oh, I got ages to qualify, or they might be on holiday, they might be doing this, they might be doing that. Whereas like that show, everybody goes to because it's like the last champ show before Crufts. So they'll either treat it as like a last chance to qualify a dog, or the last chance to give their dog a run in a big environment, a busy atmosphere, busy show before Crufts.
And so, especially considering we nearly missed our class.
In the deep end.
It was the one we qualified in, which was the one that we almost missed out on
Yeah.
as well. Literally,
And
like
that had stress, like he's gone in the ring, going a bit flustered.
I was literally, we were literally about to
But
go
yeah,
shopping, and Sadie was like, "That's your ring," and I was like, "Oh, okay then." Literally just legged it. Stop fighting. Had to
yeah.
leg it over, undress him because he had his harness on and not his show stuff on, and then ran around the ran around the rest of the people to be like, "I'm so sorry." Like, got on with it. Lie down. Thank you, bud. And then we got third place.
Yeah.
So I know he's got such an attitude, haven't you? Shit. But that is one of those things. Like,
That's one thing you have to do with him.
you just gotta take it as it
No,
comes, don't you? Like, you think last week, like I said to
yeah.
Jay texted me and was like, "Oh, how'd you feel?" And I was like, "Well, he's not been out for 2 weeks, so he's not seen anyone but me and my other half. So, did I really expect him to be okay with someone going over him when he's not seen anyone for ages?" And obviously, we know with Bucky that he is slightly more timid with people, but again, that's through fault of my own as such for just not getting him out enough. But it's something that he can be trained against and get over. But I
Yeah,
can't
of
expect
course.
him to
Like
be
you can
first
always
place when he's
condition
not
them
seen
for
anyone.
it. Yeah, you can condition them for loads of stuff like that. But I mean, I think the sort of foundation training you did with him got you to where you got
Yeah.
that day at the show. Um, like it wasn't difficult for you to adapt how you trained him already to make him into a show dog.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it was a huge deal anyway to you guys. But yeah, like, and that's the other thing is like you never trained him or done anything with him with showing in mind.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes the best way. Like Nala, I took her everywhere, did everything with her. Because I used to be a riding instructor, she'd come to all my lessons with me. And
Yeah.
depending on the venue, people, like she might be allowed out of the car while I was teaching, or she might have to stay in the car. But like when she was a puppy, I'd be teaching, and then some of the girls on the yard were going to take her out of my car and go and play with her and give her a run and stuff.
Yeah.
And
And we had
like
bit
that
of
way, you kind of socialize yourself with no real
yeah.
effort.
We just had a bit of a weird year from obviously when I got him because we just moved stables and stuff. But equally, when we got him, the hour and a half from your house to mine, he screamed the whole way. He was not happy with being in that car. And it probably took him about 5 months to be comfortable with going out in the car. He would just constantly
It's
cry.
mad as well because like I took them out as a litter in the car multiple times, and they were like the quietest litter I've ever had on their car.
It was one of those. Wait, boys, they're just fighting on the bed. It was the first time we took both Bucky out and Woody out in the van. Excuse me. That he then got over it, and after that, he didn't love the car, but he'll do it now. So the problem we had there was he would scream every time he was in the car. If I sat in the pub with him, he'd also scream that he was in the pub. He was just not sure about what was going on at that point. So it wasn't until we started taking them both out together, he was fine with it then. So he is fully capable of getting over things, but we probably did miss a little period when he was properly young just because of the way he used to behave. Like, I can't sit in the middle of a pub with the puppy screaming his head off without people making comments. So, but I mean, he's good as gold. He just has training to do. We'll get in there.
But yeah, like the socializing aspect is usually where a lot of dogs go wrong in showing.
Yeah.
You see that a lot. Where certainly different lines have got like predisposition to be a bit nervous. Some just dogs, some litters just are nervous and they'll never get over it to the point where they can show. Because when you actually like explain it or you think of it, where you got to take them in a ring with other dogs that they don't know, everybody's on lead and you're not allowed to meet the other dogs.
Yeah.
And then there's strange people in the ring, there's strange people standing outside the ring, and then they got to trot round in a circle, and then they got to stand, and then they got to let a stranger that they've never met in their life put their hands all over them, check their mouths, and then they got to move up and down and triangle, whatever the judge is going to ask you to do. Like, it's a big ask for a dog, especially a puppy. And like, you'll see as well, like, say puppies start off really well, but then their owners are so excited to be showing that they go every weekend, both days, every weekend. Like, when's that dog's time to be a dog? When are they
Yeah.
getting other experiences? Because if they get like a bad experience in the ring, that can finish a puppy. They might never get over it.
And that was why for us
Then
on Sunday
that
we
again
left
goes
before second class. Because we were waiting.
that kind of
obviously-
goes back though, like, you know, on like their temperament in general, and yeah, like how they've been bred, but also how they've been raised with the breeder and the new owner, of how they can get over things. Like, some dogs can be bitten by another dog and then they shake it off and they're fine with other dogs.
Yeah.
Whereas others will become quite defensive, or they wouldn't want dogs in their personal space because they know what happened last time, and they'll
Yeah.
never truly trust other dogs. But you
I
will
think
get
it's-
others that just
Like I
shake
said,
it off and get on with it.
sometimes there's
Yeah.
just things that you have no clue about either. Like, obviously with Woody there wasn't an official defining factor, but the weird thing with him was that he used to be timid of people and then he became reactive, and he's fine with people now. He can meet any new person and not give two shits about it, but it's the dogs that he has a problem with. So different things are physically,
I
he's
wonder
just
if it's pain related.
he's on gabapentin as one of those, and
Yeah.
we're trying it. It
But if
probably
you
is.
think, like, yeah, like, he's not going to want other dogs barreling into him because it hurts.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's
you
something
can
we're
more
working
than
with.
understand his point of view. Yeah. Yeah, I find a lot of reactive dogs. It's either the basic temperament of that line, and that's how they are, or there's like pain involved.
I wish people would research that more though. So going off on a little bit of a tangent, I've got a couple of clients at the minute, not Dalmatians, but they're all the same breed. And they all, from what I can research, all come from the same line.
Yeah.
All of them are showing nervousness and reactivity and just generally being unsure of the world. And the owners are all trying so hard, but it's so hard to explain to them how much progress they're actually going to be able to make if that
Yeah.
dog
If
is
it's genetic.
genetically that way inclined. And
I
yeah,
think so, like, going back another step away from that is more breeders need to be aware that it's genetic. Temperament is way more genetic in dogs than it is in humans.
Not gonna lie, that's the
Like,
one
way,
thing
way.
that's frustrated me about these shows, in that reactive dogs can place. I don't. It's a personal thing,
If
but I
they
suppose.
react in the ring, they shouldn't be placed.
Yeah,
In my opinion, they should be thrown out.
yeah.
Like, you know, my dogs have had dogs go at them in the ring, and it shouldn't happen.
No. I just don't
like, I
think
was showing
it's-
him actually.
What's the, in the nicest way, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but what's the point? The whole point of showing is to obviously help with the breeders' lines and stuff, isn't it? Is you're showing how good the genetics are of that line and all that. But if you've got a dog who's
Showing
reactive,
breed and stuff.
yeah, well, if they're reactive, what's the point? Because
Yeah.
you're not going to want to breed from that dog. That's like, Woody could be a perfect, he hasn't got a tail,
People
but
do. That's
yeah,
the
but I
problem,
don't think
is
they should
people
be
do.
able to. It's the one
No,
thing
I
that really
agree,
frustrates
but
me
they
about
do.
it.
I've had pet owners in classes that have dogs that are nervous and reactive to pretty much everything, and they will
Yeah.
message go, I'm considering breeding from this dog because I want a puppy from her. And you're trying to explain to them, you're like, look, your dog is terrified of noises, cars, people, dogs in the world. Why do you want to pass that on? And they just get
Yeah.
offended because they don't think I understand. And like, you don't need another dog like that in the
No.
world. It needs to happen.
And not only that, breeding is expensive. It's hard work. a lot can go wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like there was somebody in the Dalmatian community, her bitch needed a C-section. She bled out,
Oh, God.
leaving that breeder with like, I think it was 11 or 13 puppies,
Mm.
a hand rear. And not all of those puppies made it either. And it's like, I finished her. She can't, like, understandably, but
Yeah.
you know, like so much can go wrong, and it's so expensive. Like emergency C-sections, it's like how long's a piece of string? Like it can be really expensive. But yeah, there's so many people breeding from lines they shouldn't. But like breeding's always weighing up like the good and the bad. Like no dog is perfect, as much as we as owners,
We all like to think so.
we think they are. We love them to bits, but
Yeah.
they're not all built the same, or you know. Yeah. So like health and temperament. If you started off there, are they good in all of those aspects? Then you go, right, brilliant. That's a good start. But like, there's a lot of people that don't fully health test dogs. Or there's people that health test them and then like make decisions, even though the dog's maybe not got the best health test results. They still breed anyway, and it's like, well, what was the point in health testing if you're going to ignore it?
Might as well not have bothered.
Yeah, and I mean, like people will use a reactive dog or a dog that's known to produce nervous puppies because those puppies also happen to win at shows. And it's like, well, okay, but what about the other 10 puppies in the litter? You might win the show with that one, but what are all those owners going to do?
About the other ones.
Yeah.
So
And
I don't know if we actually discussed this or not. What's your opinion on a fat and lame dog placing better than Bucky?
well, it shouldn't.
It did. It came second.
Quite
or
simply.
third. One of the two. It came second or third. I give it. Bucky really played up, but it was overweight and it was lame. And the judge went over halfway through judging and said your dog's lame, and
Yeah.
still placed it third or second.
Yeah, they shouldn't have. They should have been asked kindly to leave the ring.
Yeah.
Because it's lame. But you see it a lot, the lame dogs placing. You see it a lot, like really bad joint problems in a dog. It might not necessarily be lame, but its joints certainly can't withstand endurance work. And then they place or they qualify Crufts or they win, and it's like, yeah, but have you actually read the breed standard?
Yeah. And do you think
yeah.
can they? Like, can a judge be reprimanded for those sort of decisions? Like if say not it would, but hypothetically if that was at Crufts, or they placed a reactive dog, like a dog reacted in the ring as they were finishing, but they still placed it and they did. I know you can it can be queried, can't it? But like if a judge stuck to their decisions.
So trouble with the kennel club is for anybody to raise an issue like that, they have to pay £35 to raise the issue.
Right.
And then the kennel club looks at it, and more often than not, they don't do anything because the kennel club only want your money. They don't want to do the work for it, and they don't want to uphold their own policies for it. Judges can react appropriately and send a dog out of the ring. They can react appropriately and move the dog out of the lineup.
Because
the more often than not, they can't.
My first show, they got rid of a dog that was lame, but then obviously in this one they didn't.
That's right. That should happen, and that should happen more. I think, like, if that happened, say when that judge is being assessed or examined on their judging, then they may not pass that exam or assessment. And potentially, if their judging was being inspected, they could be. But I think also, like, if they're they were being inspected, they'd be aware that they were being inspected and probably
They wouldn't have done it.
do what they do otherwise. I don't know, but that would be my opinion on it.
This is a random one that's come into my head. Do you think it's completely unrelated with all of the crap that's happened with the XL bullies and so say cane Corso is going to be coming in and all that? Do you think if the government ever buck up their ideas and sort things out, that it would change the way the kennel club is?
No, the kennel club is too separate from the government stuff.
Okay.
I think the kennel club could do a hell of a lot more than they do for standards and dogs, and like it's not against kennel club policy to breed from a completely deaf dog.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can hip score a dog and it could hip score 57, which is high, and there's nothing in the kennel club policy to say you can't breed from that dog. Now, for example, another example is there was somebody in Denmark, I think it was Denmark, I might be wrong on the country, but somewhere in Europe, and their dog produced offspring, and at least one of them had to be put down because of such severe allergies. Like the dog would literally chew its feet off. Severe. And he was banned from using that dog as a stud dog. Can't do it. Not allowed. Now, somebody in the UK used that stud dog, and the Danish Kennel Club found out about it, and he got, I think it was either a year or 3-year ban from competing in Denmark because they found out about it. Now, why can't our kennel club do things like that? Like, that would drastically improve the health of dogs.
Yeah.
Now, for example, another example, I think it was again the same country. If they have a puppy from me and my dog, the stud dog, isn't a champion, he's got to go to the vets for them to check that he's got both testicles, and he's got to have like a piece of paper signed by a vet to say they're both there for that puppy to be able to be imported and registered.
Even though he's created the puppy.
Well, you could with one, couldn't you? But yeah, he's shown in this country, and he's done other things in this country that clearly prove they're both there, but no vet. But yeah, like we're so behind on things like that.
Oh yeah, totally. It's something like, it might even be Denmark. There's one in Denmark, and I know in Australia they've got restrictions as well, but I think in Denmark you have to be able to pass an exam before you can let your dog off lead. It's somewhere one of those sort of countries. You have to do a physical test to prove that your dog can be recalled before they're actually allowed off lead in public. And then you have like a little piece of paper to carry around with you to prove it. And then in Australia, I believe, like the licensing thing we used to have, but you can only have a certain amount of dogs. So the council will come and view your house, and you only have a permit for like 2 dogs because you've got 4 bedrooms or something like that. Like, you're restricted. I mean,
the trouble is, like, going sort of on that point, but back to the XL bully thing. Like, some of them run out of their house. Didn't mean for the dog to get out. Yeah. Other times, like, attacks happened, fatal attacks happened in the dog's house. So even though they got to be out in public with muzzles and on leads, which I do agree with, it still couldn't or won't prevent all of the attacks.
No. And it's like I said, since the ban actually has been increased.
Well, going back to genetics, do you know all the fatal attacks by XL bullies? They've all got one common dog in their pedigree.
Isn't the granddad of the dad like Killer in America, or his name's Killer or something stupid, isn't it? Or something.
Yeah. But genetics, like, you know, obviously that woman, the person who owns that dog, is denying it, but you can't deny the plain facts.
And he's literally like the size of a hippo. He's massive. Yeah. I've seen the video. He's absolutely huge. But it's just one of those, I don't like. I
If you
mean,
went to responsible dog ownership, are those people buying status symbol dogs? Responsible dog owners.
yeah,
I'm not saying there aren't some that are, but they're not buying them to be a responsible dog owner, are they? They're buying
no,
them as an intimidation factor. They're buying them as a weapon.
yeah.
So they're always going to move on to the next weapon dog
And for me,
if it's difficult.
this might be just a personal opinion, but I also don't see the need for protection dogs in the UK. I drive past a house when I go to my friends all the time, and it is a protection dog service where they're like training the dogs up and stuff. And I'm like, what do you do that's that important in the UK that you need a protection dog? Because
There are
technically,
places in the UK that you would want protection.
I mean, that's your choice for living in that part of the UK, but like I just don't see you're not allowed
Yeah,
guns,
but
you're
if your
not really
family
allowed to
live
carry
and work
knives.
there,
So
I mean,
technically your dog's a weapon.
but then like, for example, celebrities have protection dogs. Well, yeah, because there are some crazy people
Yeah.
out there and they do experience stalkers and all sorts. So, I mean, but that's the other thing is a protection dog in theory is well trained. I know like uh, companies that sell protection dogs that they do at least annual type like 2 or 3 days where they'll
Yeah.
go back to wherever that protection dog they sold is and top up, remind of the training with that dog. They try and maintain things. They maintain a link to that dog to maintain its training. So I don't think the protection dogs are the problem.
No,
It's the
no,
people
no,
that
I'm
don't
not.
train them
Yeah, I'm not
properly.
saying that them themselves. It's just a personal thought, but like in my head, like that they would be classed as a weapon because the intent is to deter and harm. So if a knife and a gun would be illegal, then technically the dog, his only purpose is to deter and harm. Then technically, obviously, police dogs are allowed because that's their job, but if it's not under police
But
guidance,
there's like the murky area because it's also a dog.
yeah,
It's also a living
yeah,
being
exactly.
that also, yeah, they'll never, it'll never go that way in
No,
government. Um, ever. But yeah, I mean, like to me, I think like if there was a licensing system for people owning a dog over a certain size or over a certain weight, they've got to have a license.
yeah,
So anybody owning a giant breed, any sort of mastiff that weighs more than your average 6, 7 year old child, then yeah, have a license. Make sure you know how to manage that dog, control that dog, care for that dog, know all the risk factors involved with the dog of that size.
Yeah.
To me, that makes more sense. I mean, does every dog owner need a license? No, not really.
There
they
was
just
talk
need to
about this,
put
wasn't there?
in.
And yeah, and it was almost like, I mean, how it would work is a whole other ball game, but you'd almost rate each breed, say out of 10 for difficulty, and then they'd issue a license to somebody and they'd go, you know what? You're not capable of having a dog over level 3, or you can only have a dog at level 1, or you shouldn't get a breed bigger than this. So I think that again, it would never work because it would take too much work to like enforce it. But I see so many new dog owners that have never had a dog before in their life. Their family don't have a dog. They've not grown up with a dog. And they go out and buy the biggest breed ever. And a difficult big breed, not just an old, a snoddy one, a difficult one. And they have so many issues because they've never had a dog, but they also have no idea about the breed. And the dog's huge.
Like some of the mastiff type breeds are quite stubborn. They're not the easiest to train because they're quite headstrong. I know that's a generalization, but yeah. But like how many people do you see with one of these? And they are perfectly trainable. You just got to train them.
My
they
dog
don't put the
really,
work
really
in.
clever. But yeah, you see so many again. Disney dogs. They've watched the film. Oh, I really fancy one of those. Let's go out and get one. And then you see it in all the Facebook groups. Oh, they're really stupid, or they're doing this, or they're being destructive, or they're doing this. And you're like, because they're clever and they need a job. But you've not understood that before you've gone out and got one.
I mean, you both know that
Yeah.
through experience from myself that I don't like Dalmatian owners. I've had quite a lot of bad experience with other Dalmatian owners, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't be the first person to go out and recommend the breed to everyone because they aren't a breed for everyone. And actually, other than you guys and maybe like Bucky's brother's owner, there's I'm not going to insult everyone that I know, but there's very few who I know that can handle it properly or do it correctly because I mean, I've seen through clients that they don't do it quite correctly, so I've got to guide them in the right way, and they do. They're all ready to learn, but they're not the first breed that I'd put out there to just
And I mean,
par off
a
to
lot
anyone.
again comes back to genetics and
Yeah.
breeders. Like this is Lanny, by the way, anybody who doesn't know. He's the most laid back, horizontal dog you've ever met in your life. He's just cuddly, he's sweet. Like he's not walked today. He's played with his ball. So he loves like the sport pet balls. And you throw that for him. He's perfectly happy. He just wants fuss and cuddles. He doesn't need a lot of brain work and mental stimulation because he's a bit stupid. Sorry, Lou, but you are.
I also want to make a point on that, like, the owners can fully ruin a dog as well. Like, you being a breeder
100%.
yourself, you know that you can breed good stock, but if the owner's a shit owner, you could have bred the perfect puppy,
Yeah.
but because the owner's crap, they've just ruined a
Lanny
good
is
puppy.
pretty foolproof.
Yeah.
He's a big dog. He's solid. When he greets people, he hasn't done this in a while, but he does. If he jumps up, he doesn't just jump up, he shoves you as well. So, like, okay, you would probably discount frail people because he probably would knock them over doing that trick. But otherwise, he is pretty foolproof. Like, he's not reactive, he's not destructive. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he likes, if I give him a natural chew, he's perfectly happy to get stuck into it. But he doesn't need what some Dalmatians need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pod is pretty much the same as well. Yeah, they're just easy dogs that if you don't want to walk, they ain't bothered. Raven, shut up. Finnick touched her.
About this before we came on. So, like, we said, didn't we? So I said that my dogs hadn't been out for a walk yesterday. And
yeah,
you said, didn't you? You were like, oh, my dogs haven't been out today. So they cope. And
yeah,
on the Facebook,
like I've done one group walk today.
Yeah,
I got so many. I have to take them out in groups.
Yeah, like they 6 hours of walking a day, and you're like, no, they don't. Like my dogs didn't have a walk yesterday. They slept on the sofa for most of the day. Actually, they were quite happy. Give them a chew, like jobs are good in, but yeah.
So yeah, like not every Dalmatian is suitable for people, but there are dogs out there that are. And like his offspring, like his eldest only just turned a year old, whereas like Pod, he's produced for a few years now, and I know pretty consistently he breeds quite calm, quite laid back dogs that are more foolproof. They're confident, they got a solid temperament, they're a solid enough dog that it would be easier to recommend a Pod puppy to new first time owners than others. Now, like Finnick, he'll be the sire of my litter coming up. He's an unknown quantity for what he produces, but based on him, I'm expecting puppies with more energy than Pod puppies. I'm expecting more.
So again, so again, your job as a breeder would then to essentially be, you know what, I know this litter are going to be relatively calm,
Yeah.
So maybe I can be a little bit not less picky about who you send them to, but
But yeah, less.
know what to expect
Yeah.
almost. Yeah.
And then like the inquiries I've had for Phoebe, the GSP's litter, a lot of them are very, very active people. That it'd be more like the stereotype you'd think need Dalmatians.
Yeah.
Not that they don't need a GSP, but there's definitely like that part or that aspect of what I think more Dalmatian people need to get into their heads, that they do actually need to be prepared to do things with their dog. Whereas like I think all of the GSP people have come in with a dog
I
that
know.
they're expecting needs a lot. Whereas like Phoebe actually ironically is less than a lot of the Dalmatians. So if she produces puppies like herself, these owners may be a bit disappointing. They've got such a laid back dog. But yeah, I think like people need to think as well about what they want to live with, like as a dog, and they got to work on creating that when they get their puppy. But yeah, you're foolproof and you learn.
He's beautiful.
Yeah. He's such a softie.
Right.
Such
So
a softie.
let's wrap it up on one last question then. Let's go back to Crufts. Give me one good, one bad, and one ugly about Crufts.
There's a few.
Nothing that's
The
going to get you in
shopping
trouble,
is
but just
Raven. The shopping is good.
yeah.
Never beat the shopping at Crafts. The having fun with your dog at the biggest dog show in the world. The whole like occasion of Crafts is obviously a good one. The ugly of Crafts is because we're a large entry breed, we start early. And then they don't allow people with dogs to leave until 4 p.m. So you're going to be on, for example,
We're literally
before
like
9 o'clock.
8:30 or something, aren't we? Like,
yeah, you're going to be on early. Which, like, you can see it as a good point or a bad point because you've got all day to shop. Whereas, like, for me, who's got multiple dogs, like dogs and bitches competing, then, like, there's not only small little gaps and windows for me to shop. And it's time to go home. Raven, you are annoying me. She's so noisy. It's because they're touching her when she's sleeping. The ugly about Crufts, it's probably the additional public that is there. So, like, I'm taking 5 dogs to Crufts. I'm only showing one at a time. So I'm in the ring and my dogs are on the benches in their crates. Like, I know they're safe, but like, what's to stop people opening a crate or giving them a treat that I haven't approved of? Or I've never experienced it, but like, there's nothing to stop people going through your bags, your stuff.
Don't worry, you've got plenty of us this year.
Well, yeah, that's one bonus because like there's loads of people, Hafwenna people.
You think I don't know how
like,
many Sadie's got, but I've got me, my dad, my brother, my mum, Jamie, and my 2 staff members all come in. Plus potentially some friends coming to watch. So they're gonna have to fight me.
Yeah, there's
to get
loads
2 dogs.
of people. Like what we've done as well is we've like put it in our entries so we all bench together.
Yeah.
So like there's loads of Hafwennas, there's loads of us all benching together. So it's like nicer that we all know each other because otherwise you bench by alphabetical order. But I think there'd be like 20 Hafwenna dogs, rough guess, going to Crufts this year. Like I'm taking 5.
6 or 7 of them are from our litter as well, aren't they?
Well, yeah, there's 8 total from that litter qualified.
Yeah.
So 8 out of the 13 are going to Crufts. That's just from one litter. Then there's definitely Finnick's brother and sister going. Maybe 2 of his sisters. Or maybe another brother too, actually. So yeah, there's 5 from that litter qualified. And then there's definitely Tanyan going, who is Becky's auntie. Yeah, there's loads of us. So like that's a cool aspect, but like it's just another additional be aware. Does that make sense? But sometimes, like, I suppose the other bad, if you like, is how busy certain areas can get. So if you're trying to get somewhere fast, chances are you're not going to be able to. Take your own food because it's expensive in there. Although one of my puppy owners, she works at like the events at the NEC. So like more than 1 year in a row, like she's got us dinner tickets that all the stewards and the staff get. So you could go up to any of the stalls and hand in this ticket, and then you get a meal and a drink. Lush.
Amazing.
They've got 3 weeks to make some money.
Yes. So yeah, it's a very busy day. It's a very big day. Wear comfortable shoes is a must.
Yeah.
Comfortable shoes. Take money with you. Even have a plan in mind of like what you want to buy. Because you definitely see extra things. But if you have it in your head, I definitely want that. Because you might go there, get distracted, and then forget that that's actually one thing I really wanted to pick up today. The Trixie stand is always good. Do you know the brand Trixie?
I've heard of it. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but yeah.
It's all like, well, they sell cat stuff as well, but there's loads of dog stuff. I think it's German. But they always have a big stand there, and they are very reasonable things. Hello, Raven.
I'm just going to go around and get as many freebies as possible.
Yeah, there's loads of freebies. Do you know there's a dog magazine that's like in Tesco's? I forget what it's called now.
It's not like Your Dog or something, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. They always do a craft special where there's like vouchers and stuff in there.
Let's have a look.
And then on the benches, there's also vouchers that each entry has. So you get like a booklet with all sorts of vouchers. So that's always good. But yeah, take lots of money. Take somebody willing to carry your bags. Comfortable shoes. And dogs, like Nala loves going around all the stalls. Because there's loads of freebies for Nala as well. Like there's lots of treat samples and things. And yeah, she's done like a little trick on us, like a couple of stalls, and ended up on their social medias. And yeah, there's like James Wellbeloved did like a photo booth thing last year. And you could like, they'd literally give you the photos and the printout of them. It was like an armchair was one of them. They had to go on.
I'm going to take a spare hoodie with my name on the back.
Also...
I walk around with my business on the back. It'd be great.
Yeah.
QR code.
Like Hafwenna merch.
I haven't got one yet, actually, have I? I'll have to do both. I'll make one up that says my work and then Hafwenna Dalmatians on it.
You know what's in my mind, like that I've been meaning to do, and I've never got around to it, is have like merch for each litter.
Yeah.
Do you know, like there'll be like one picture with all of the puppies in there, and it'd be like Hafwenna Beatles litter or Hafwenna Luna Lovegood litter, and the picture of our litter. So I think that would be quite cool. And like, I'm one of these people. I get all these ideas, and then I never get around to them.
I get you.
Yeah, Crufts is an amazing day. It's a long day, but the worst part is how long the day is.
Yeah. And so,
because obviously we got to be.
For those interested, obviously it's the 7th of March is the day that we'll be competing.
Yeah. Right.
And we are early.
And yeah, we start at 8 o'clock in the morning. We will be going all day, that ring will be, with 260 Dalmatians entered. So yeah, people should come and see us, meet some dogs, and yeah, you'll see more Dalmatians at Crufts than you probably will have ever seen in your life. And that's quite a cool thing as well. Like whatever breed you're into, you'll get to see a reasonable chunk of them. Like there are the rare breeds or the low entry breeds, but even then you'll still see some of them. Like there's never ever a breed that gets no entries. So that's like the best aspect of Crufts as well. Is just to be able to see all these breeds.
It'll be good fun.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Right. I
Yeah.
think we're gonna
We
have
should do
to
like an
call that.
aftermath of Crufts podcast.
Oh, we will. We'll do one. We will. We'll plan it in. But it is gonna have to be the end of today's podcast, guys. So as usual, everyone like, share, subscribe. Thank you for joining us again, Sarah. And we will see you soon.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.